Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vicini. We're presented by The Athletic and CLNS Media. Today on the show, we have good friend of the program, Robby Kalland from over at Uproxx Sports. It's been a long time since Robby has been on the show, but he is just generally one of the greatest humans on the internet. How's it going, buddy? It's been just so long.
It's been too long.
It has been too long.
I'm glad to be back.
Yeah.
Thrilled to be on the podcast again, talking, what else? A little gambling action.
Well, yeah, that's most of the reason that I had you come on, because if there is someone out there who writes about, like, basketball, who writes about football, who writes about any other sport, who enjoys gambling as much as I do, maybe there are a couple others out there that I'm not going to just blow up their spot necessarily, but I would say that Robby and I have no problem talking openly about gambling. We are excited today because it was Tuesday. This will be released on Wednesday. What is Wednesday? I believe it's August 30th. So this will be a great day because today was the day that NBA over-unders were released on win totals. And that is always excellent fodder for discussion and just a way to kind of guess on what the expectations are for each NBA team season. And I'm pulling Robby away from college football right now. College football starts on Thursday, which, as I mentioned on the podcast on Monday, I could not be more excited to go out on Thursday night and get drunk and watch Ohio State football against Indiana, which is the most random fucking Thursday night game that I can remember in my life. But
careful now. Careful, Buckeyes.
You think careful?
No. Well, I mean, I'm just saying. Don't come out sleepwalking against Indiana. That's the team that just... Here's the thing. If you're talking about you're looking for... Well, look, here we go. Already. if you're looking for that little, like, maybe a little nugget on Thursday night, don't hate the Hoosiers plus the points just because. That week one, Thursday night's a weird game to start on. It's Indiana. It's not, you got all these teams. You got Alabama, Florida State, games that are easy to get up for. Indiana's not necessarily the easiest to get up for. First game of the season, a little jitters, a little rust to knock off before you really get into the year. Indiana, this is new coordinator. This is the game Indiana's had circled on its schedule all year. You know, if you're Indiana, you go, this is the game. They're ready. Ohio State, they're thinking about other games. They got national title hopes. They're thinking about Michigan down the road, Penn State down the road. I'm not saying that they're going into this game like, oh, think about that, but that's not been the focus point of camp. For Indiana, there's been one goal, and that's to give Ohio State a run for it. I'm saying. I'm not saying it's a great play, but, like, Thursday night, limited slate. If you want something to feel a little frisky about, I don't hate it.
So, yeah, Ohio State is a 20.5-point favorite against the good old Indiana Hoosiers.
That's right.
I don't know that I will play that.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying if you need, look, home dogs. You know my feelings towards this.
Yeah.
I would love it if you could get it at the full 21. Honestly, I'd buy that half point.
God, you have no idea how furious I was this weekend when South Florida won by 20 when the line was 21. It was miserable. It was just miserable. And they were on like the 5-yard line as time expired. So it was like one of those situations where they didn't want to pump one in at the end. Oh, man.
Sat on it.
Yeah, just sat on it, and it was miserable.
Chaz Strong showing some respect.
I will say this. If there's one side of this to be on, if I was going to bet, I know you're feeling on home dogs. I might take Ohio State. The only reason that I might do it is because I think Kevin Wilson is going to want to put up 77 points on Indiana.
It's possible. It's very possible.
Like,
I'm just saying.
If I'm betting on Ohio State, though, I'm parlaying Ohio State with the over because I think they either put up like, okay, this is kind of a weak game, like 31-17, maybe something like that, or I think they're putting up like 50 and just rolling them.
Right, and go hang it on them. I can see that. I think that's the smart play.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're gonna get Indiana by that half point, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Get to your key numbers. Always get to your key numbers, folks.
Got to get to that 21 if you're going to take Indiana. Let's go ahead let's go ahead and talk about basketball, though. Today we're going to do Eastern Conference over-unders. We're going to save the Western Conference for the Friday pod. But, Robbie, I'm so sorry that I have to do this to you, but we're starting and we're going in alphabetical order, which means that I have to start with your Atlanta Hawks.
Yes.
For people who don't know Robbie, who weren't listening to the pod, when Robbie came on a little bit more regularly, Robbie lives in Atlanta. He's a good Georgia State alum. He's been covering the Hawks for 5 years now, right?
Yeah, I believe this will be year number 6. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, so Atlanta is at a 25.5 over-under. Obviously, I'm going to go ahead and give you the rundown on most teams, what they did last year and kind of how they'd have to add or subtract from their win total. Atlanta went 43-39 last year, but it's not even really representative in terms of like what the team looks like this year, because Paul Millsap's gone, Dwight Howard's gone, Tim Hardaway's gone. It's just a very, very different team from what was there last year. So what is your initial thought? Because with all of these, I'm going to ask you a simple question. Robbie, do you think that your gut reaction is that that number is too low? Do you think it's too high? Or do you think it's just right? And let's go from there. So
this number feels right. I remember we were when we were in Vegas for Summer League, somebody came up to me, a close person from the organization, who laughed at the idea that some online places had it at like 33.
Yeah, that's too high.
They said, I mean, they're just like, no chance. Zero chance.
Yeah.
They're like, zero chance it's over 27. Okay. That's someone who's been around a long time. Believe they might even remember that 13-win team.
Yeah, it's just...
Here's the thing. This team is awful. Absolutely awful. Now, there's something to be said for this team winning 22 games this season. I could believe it. Now, the reason that you have to be tentative on this, and the reason I think this is a good number and one that I would just generally stay away from.
Yep.
Sometimes the smartest bet's the one you don't make, and that is almost always the case with futures.
Yes, that is very accurate. And let me be clear on this, too. Like, I told Robbie this before we got on. I have done zero research on these, like, futures. Like, I have, obviously, like, a high knowledge of what's going on with all of these teams. I know pretty much down to the 17th man, like, who was on their rosters. But I have not thought in depth on, like, this exact number. I am just going gut reaction.
We haven't been deep on synergy looking at stuff. We haven't been digging through numbers. It's gut feeling, which, again, with futures, sometimes I like that because I think paralysis by analysis with futures, you can kind of talk yourself into stuff you shouldn't.
Yeah.
My suggestion: go with your gut, and then see if the numbers and everything, if what you're looking at afterwards backs up your gut, then that's probably a good play. If your gut says this, and then you go look, and all of a sudden you're like, well, maybe not, walk away.
Yep.
That's what I'll say when you're going on futures. So anyway, Atlanta, the reason I say it's probably right, Mike Budenholzer is still a really good coach.
Yep.
And we've seen him overachieve with teams in the past. There is a question of how long Bud is still in Atlanta. The consensus is he's not there by July 1st next year. However, I don't think it happens till the end of the season.
Firing him mid-year would be crazy.
It would be insane. Unless somebody came available that they just decided they had to jump on, but I can't see that happening.
Here's a good question. What is the relationship like there? Because, he obviously lost a decent amount of front office power /
he lost all
front office power. Yeah.
You can tell by the moves they made.
Yeah.
Okay. I think the one that told the most was the Dedmon signing.
Yeah, because that's a good point.
All indications out of San Antonio have been the reason they didn't bring him back is there were issues with him and Pop.
Yep.
Okay? This isn't like breaking news. This is NBA people that have said this all over the place.
Yeah, this is not a thing. Like, this is...
That's
a thing that's out there.
If Pop doesn't like a guy, who do you think Bud's talking to the most?
Yeah, he's definitely talking to Pop. For people who don't know, Budenholzer came from San Antonio.
17-year assistant with him?
Yeah.
17 years he was an assistant?
Yeah.
Come on. They're not signing a guy that Pop didn't like. You know, I mean, like, he doesn't have any power. You know, the thing is if they're overachieving, it'd be interesting to see what they do with them. How much the front office tries to play, because Schlenk has all but said that they're tanking. I mean, you can look at the roster and see that's what they're doing. I believe your most tenured best player is probably Ersan Ilyasova.
It's probably Dennis, isn't it?
It's not. I'm just saying tenured, like veteran player.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Ersan Ilyasova. Yeah. That's not great.
No.
Now, here again, this is the reason they got rid of Dwight Howard the way they did. Dwight Howard would have been that guy. He would have been your leader in the locker room. And if there's one veteran in the league you don't want doing that, it's Mr. D12.
Well, I mean, you'd have an inordinate amount of fart jokes from this Atlanta core when Dwight left next year. So it would have been like John Collins on the court making fart jokes.
Apparently Taurean Prince and Dwight were pretty cool. So there's just rumblings that they didn't want Dwight to be the guy to lead this young core through the future and them to learn from his example. If you're wondering why they did a pretty bad deal to get rid of him. Like, I didn't think there was a bad deal to get rid of Dwight, and they managed to find one.
Oh, no, that was a terrible deal. Like, they took on longer-term salary than Dwight to get rid of Dwight.
And that should tell you everything you need to know about a guy who is a literal 0.0 net rating on-off difference. Yeah. He wasn't bad on the court. So, anyway, Bud could coach him up to 26, 27 wins. Or they could be what they should be, and that's one of the 2 to 3 worst teams in the league and win 19 to 24. So that's why I think this is a wash. It really depends on how much Bud, who is not a big fan of young guys playing lots of minutes, is told to play young guys lots of minutes.
So what do we think their starting lineup is? It's probably Dennis, Kent
Dennis
Bazemore, Taurean Prince, Ersan, and Dwayne Dedmon?
Yeah.
Maybe Mike starts over maybe Mike Muscala because, you know,
they like Muscala.
Yeah, I would imagine.
And he would give them more. If you're looking at that lineup, I mean, the funniest thing about that lineup is your 4 and your 5 are 2 of your 3 best perimeter shooters. Yeah,
it's true.
Because Taurean's not a knockdown guy yet.
Could be this year, but not yet.
Could be. Not a knockdown guy yet. Dennis is one of those super streaky 3-point guys, and Kent fell off last year as I predicted. I think he gets back and is better this year.
Yeah.
But he's never going to earn that contract in the fans' eyes, which isn't his fault. Once again, like I used to yell at people about Joe Johnson. He didn't offer himself that much money.
Yeah. No, you shouldn't be mad at Kent Bazemore for making bank. You should be mad at that front office, which, when Kent signed that deal, was pretty much Budenholzer, if I remember correctly.
Bud and West, but probably a lot of Bud. And also, it's funny, so far, every graduate of Hawks University has just not worked out. So, if you see a wing player come out of the Hawks, like that used to be a minimum type guy, and you're thinking about giving him $17 million, New York Knicks, don't do it next time.
Be concerned. Be very concerned.
Because so far, Damari and Kent, it has not worked.
No.
And I don't think it's going to work with Timmy either. So.
Yeah, neither do I.
Best of luck.
Yeah, I'm going to say this number is just about right as well. If I was going to lean a direction, I would probably lean over because of Budenholzer. I think he's just not going to tank, regardless.
He doesn't really have it in him. I really think it's going to have to be a really heavy hand from above. But even then, like, what can you do? He's not going to resign because this is the biggest contract he's ever had. He's got, I believe, 3 years left.
Yeah.
So they're just going to have to buy him out, and they won't want to do that till the end of the year. And you can't really justify firing a coach if he's overachieving. You know?
Well, you can't justify firing a coach if he's overachieving, and you can't justify firing Budenholzer based on his track record so far.
No, he's been great. So
he's legit a top 10 coach in the NBA, probably.
I think you'll get a mutual parting of ways type deal that results in a buyout next May. But yeah, so I think that's probably more Hawks talk than we needed to have.
It is, but
they're bad at basketball. John Collins will be fun. He'll dunk on some people.
Yeah, and DeAndre Bembry looked pretty good at Summer League. They still have Marco Bellinelli here.
Belly God. I mean, look, that's the thing. Like, Ersan and Bellinelli are two guys that just, like, it sounds weird to say, but they win you some regular season games by getting hot.
Yeah, they do.
Belly can put up 26 in a game randomly. Yeah. He's not going to do it often, but he's going to win you a random game.
Ersan's going to have some random 30-10 game.
Yo, Ersan, yeah, he has those moments where he's also the god of taking charges, Ersan Ilyasova.
30-10 and 5 charges. I am excited
best
for
in
that
the business.
That is the Ersan. Let's go on ahead and move on from the Hawks because, like you said, just too much. Boston Celtics 56-5, or I'm sorry, 56.5 is their over/under. Last year they won 53, I believe, in the regular season. So they're projecting a 4-win improvement to go over. What is your initial thought on this, Robbie?
It's way too high.
I agree. I think this is too high.
This is one of my locks. I will tell you when I actually like something. We're gonna pick everything, but I will tell you the few that I actually like. Yeah. This is one. Lock it up.
This is one of them for me too. Their expected win-loss based on their Pythagorean rating last year and their offensive and defensive rating was 48 wins. So they're essentially projecting to go over on this number. They would need to win 9 more games, and this comes after losing what will likely be Jay Crowder and Isaiah Thomas and Avery Bradley. They also lost Kelly Olynyk to the Miami Heat. They lose Amir Johnson to the Philadelphia 76ers.
You're going to lean on more young guys, which doesn't exactly result in regular. Here's what I wrote earlier today over on Uproxx was, look, you lose guys. I think Boston will be a better playoff performer next year. I think they are better suited with the guys they added to actually give the Cavs a test. Yep. When you add KYRIE, when you add Gordon Hayward. However, they get worse in the regular season. The reason why the guys they lost are the guys that win you random regular season games. Jay Crowder, Avery Bradley, Isaiah Thomas played their heart out every night. And look, I'm not talking about grit, but what happens in the regular season, you can win games based on effort in the regular season. You can't do that in the playoffs. In the playoffs, everybody plays hard. You need talent.
Yep.
Okay? In the regular season, you catch teams not caring some nights. And if you care, sometimes that's enough. Okay?
Yep.
That's what happened in a couple of those Cavs games. That's what happened in just a lot of those games they played against bigger teams. They cared more. They don't have those guys. Okay? Yep. Kyrie Irving is not a guy that goes, I care more right now in the regular season. He's just not.
Okay? Yeah, like maybe he'll be motivated to...
against the Cavs?
Well, I'm saying like maybe he'll be motivated like after... everyone has questioned like whether or not he should be a guy that runs his team, right? Sure. Like maybe that's a possibility. And I want to say Gordon Hayward.
A sustained thirst.
Gordon Hayward is a guy that always tries in the regular season, so that's one thing that will help.
Sure, but they lost a lot of those pieces that give you like Avery Bradley and Jay Crowder, two of your best defensive pieces. And
I think there's going to be a major adjustment early with this team defensively.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, how many times do we see teams that make big swings in free agency and trades come out a little sluggish? We've seen it with the Warriors in the past. We've seen it with the Heat in the past, the Cavs in the past. Every time people go, oh, is something wrong? It's like, no, it's the first 20 games of the season. Maybe they go 13-7.
Yeah.
But those are 7 losses you can't have if you're betting on 57 wins.
And this Isaiah Thomas KYRIE trade has happened so late in the offseason that, like, a lot of these guys that are on the same team, they do try and work out a little bit together,
right?
Like in the offseason to at least get a little bit of feel.
Yeah, this will be just training camp.
They're essentially just going to have training camp to get better and to get to the point where they need to go. I agree. I think this team starts a little bit slow, picks it up by midseason. Jaylen Brown starts to pick it up. Jason Tatum starts to pick it up. KYRIE works his way in, kind of, as he typically does. I think like a 50 to 53 wins is probably about right again. I think that, this is probably a similar level team to what it was last year. And then, better suited for the playoffs, like Robbie said. But I agree. This is for sure an under to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not even a question there. Let's go ahead and move on. Brooklyn Nets, 28.5.
9 wins better?
Yeah.
Really?
Gut reaction.
Really?
Too high, too low, just right.
Too high.
I agree. Too high.
Too high. Look, they traded away their best player. and did not get anyone this offseason that is a better player than Brook Lopez right now.
Nope, I agree.
Okay? D'Angelo Russell it's the right move for what they needed to do to bring in D'Angelo Russell and look to the future. That's what you're doing if you're the Nets.
Yep.
You bring in your two best acquisitions beyond that are Allen Crabbe, who depends on what you believe about him and what last year was.
Well, look, here's the thing with Allen Crabbe.
And Damari Cowley.
Do we think Allen Crabbe is a starter?
Probably not. He's not a starter on a good team.
Right, like he was a bench player
like,
who averaged like 10 a game on a very middling Blazers team over the last 2 years.
Yep.
So I agree. I think that the Crabbe acquisition is getting a little bit overrated. The DeMarre Carroll acquisition is getting overrated too. Like,
yeah, I mean he's a shell of what he was in Atlanta.
Yeah, he was legitimately unplayable in Toronto at times.
Yeah. And I love DeMarre, but that knee just it ain't right.
It sucks. Then I'm glad he got paid, but it sucks.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, people are overrating what Russell can do this year with that cast around him.
So I'll go to bat for that one because I actually think he's going to be awesome this year.
No. I'm just saying as far as what he does to make you win games. I think he can put up fantastic numbers, and I think he's going to be really good. I just think if you're talking about winning games, you bring in him. I don't think right now with what's around him that makes you an improvement. I think he can be very good. I think he's going to have a really solid season. I think he's going to make some Lakers fans get a little lemon booty about it, especially if Lonzo comes out a little sluggish. Yeah. That's my favorite hope for the early season is D'Angelo comes out and is averaging like 22 a game because he's the only guy that can score on the Brooklyn Nets.
I am on the record saying that D'Angelo Russell is going to average like 20 and 7 this year.
Wouldn't surprise me at all, but again, like that's not going to win them games. It's just because somebody got to score.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be Allen Crabbe scoring 25.
You know what the funny thing is? So Russell in this offense with increased floor spacing. Think about that Lakers roster the last couple years. Look at who Russell had around him that could actually shoot the basketball. This Nets team is just spacing oriented to the bone. Like that's all they want to do is have the floor space. They're going to have Trevor Booker chucking threes. They're going to have Tim Mozgov in the mid-range chucking. They're going to have like Karis LeVert out there shooting threes. Allen Crabbe's obviously a great three-point shooter. Like, he's actually going to have space for driving lanes and passing lanes. It's going to be fun, I think. It
could be fun. I think they're going to be a much more entertaining team than they've been. I just don't think they're going to be a significantly better team than they've been. It wouldn't surprise me to win 24, 25 games, but they're not winning 29 in my estimation. I think people are overrating how bad the rest of the East is going to be in comparison to the Nets and saying that's going to make them suddenly a near 30-win team is the problem. I think that's what's happening with a lot of these East numbers in people's mind. Everybody sees the East sucks. Well, guess what? You still got to play all those Western Conference teams who some of those got better, okay? Honestly, every Western Conference team got better in a way. Even the Kings became a tougher game than what they were at the very end of the season because you had Zebo, you had George Hill, who's actually a good basketball player, to that roster, and the Kings are a little bit better. Okay? So you got to play all those Western Conference teams still, and the East teams just kind of, the bottom of the East are just going to kind of beat up on each other. That's what they're going to do. And look, everybody's like, oh, the Nets won't be trying to tank. No players are trying to tank. It's just where the front office is putting them in a bad position. Like, players don't get out on the floor and go, man, this is for the number 1 pick in the lottery.
I need that draft pick.
I'm going to throw this off the rim a bunch of times. No, they just might suck.
Yeah.
There's a difference between not trying and just being bad at basketball comparative to the rest of the league. Again, all these guys are very good at basketball. I want to emphasize that.
Very awesome.
They're like the 450 of like the 500 best basketball players on earth.
Yes.
You might say there are 50 around overseas, maybe in college. That
might even be more than that, but whatever.
Might even be more. They're all really good. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, Nets under.
So I just want to bring up to you, this is what the front court of what the Brooklyn Nets looks like right now.
It's so bad.
So I would imagine that Damari Carroll plays the 4 a decent amount.
That's not good.
Rondé Hollis-Jefferson played the 4 late last year. I'm not real excited about that.
Nope.
Trevor Booker is like a rotation player on a good team. Tim
Yeah,
Mozgov
is a
exists.
tall human being.
Then there's Jared Allen, who's 20, 19.
Yep.
Quincy Acey.
He is still in the league.
That's it. Like maybe Karis LeVert plays some 4.
Oh no. Oh no.
He's like 6'7" with a 7-foot wingspan. Like sure. I don't know.
Little stringy, small ball. Yeah, the Nets are bad. They're gonna get eaten up. And that's the other thing is you gotta look at like matchups, what they're gonna have. If you're looking at some of the bad teams in the East, like there's some good front court players in the East that just get eat them up.
Like Miles Turner plays for Indiana, another team that people think is bad. Like Indiana's bad.
He will have in the 3 games they play against the Nets, 4 games they play against them, he's going to average like 30 and 14.
Yeah, he's going to be a beast.
Great.
He's going to be a beast.
Gonna be great.
I'm with you. Brooklyn under. I just don't see this team being 9 points better or 9 wins better. I think that a lot of the upward trajectory for the Nets is being ascribed to the fact that they're not going to tank because they don't have their draft pick, and also that this organization is run incredibly competently now.
It is.
I just don't think that there's enough talent here.
And look, one of my favorite things with college football isms is it's Jimmys and Joes, not X's and O's.
Mm-hmm.
Nets ain't got Jimmys and Joes yet.
And this comes from you, who has dealt with Kenny Atkinson for years.
I love Kenny Atkinson. And look, part of the reason I was very bullish on this trade to get D'Angelo Russell is if there's a point guard whisperer, it's Kenny. Yeah. That dude makes the same way Quinn Snyder will make a wing player look better than he should in Utah, which is why they should be real excited about what they got going on.
Yep.
Like, they'll be able to fill Gordon Hayward with some, piecemeal because Quinn just makes people better on the wing. He teaches you how to shoot. DeMarre Carroll credits Quinn Snyder entirely for him being a 35% shooter when he was in Atlanta, 37. Yeah. Kenny Atkinson makes point guards better. He's why Jeff Teague made the leap Jeff Teague did. He's why Dennis made the jump Dennis did, and part of why Dennis has kind of stalled since.
Yeah.
Kenny Atkinson is going to be really good, but it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. I think they have Sean Marks, Kenny Atkinson. They've done a beautiful job of starting that. But again, they got to put it together. They're not there yet. There's a lot of teams like this that people overproject the first year jump.
Yeah,
it's not yet. It's not yet in Brooklyn. Probably won't be for another 2 years until they start getting out from under some of these bigger deals that they keep eating up.
Yeah, let's go on ahead and move to Charlotte. 42.5. For those who kind of ignored the Charlotte Hornets late last year. I don't really blame you. They weren't super exciting to watch. 36-46 last year. That was actually a pretty big downturn, though, from their year before, where they were 48-34. Some reasons for that downturn. Nicola Batum, after he got his money, decided to have one of the biggest kind of downturns in the NBA, I think it's pretty fair to say.
Yes.
Marvin Williams, after he got paid, had a pretty big downturn, unfortunately. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist still has not yet taken that next step. Cody Zeller missed 20 games. That was a big deal. Just kind of an issue, like
losing Al Jefferson, never quite figuring out that move forward. I thought it was a good move to let him go, but they didn't quite. Losing Zeller for those 20 games wasn't good. And
yep.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, Robbie, the question I have for you: too low, too high, or just right?
It feels just about right. If you're looking for that team that, if you're talking to me about teams that are going to make that jump in the East and take advantage of the slop, okay, that is going to be the bottom 6. Charlotte's the team that gets back in that race for the 5 seed, okay, and the race for the 5 seed is anywhere between 41 and 44 games.
Yep.
This is right in the middle of 41 and 44 games.
Yep.
So I think this is right. I think this is a team that could win 46-47 again. Could win 39-40. You know, yep. I don't love a pick here. I don't love either side of this, but I got to say I think they got it right. I think some bounce-back years from Marvin and Batum, a healthy Zeller, and they've got some pieces. And they're just really well coached.
So, yeah, I think I would lean over, but ultimately would stay away here.
Okay.
They do acquire Dwight Howard, which
will make them better.
Will, I think, make them better. I agree. I'm going to be interested to see how they use him with Cody Zeller, because Zeller and Kemba Walker, I would actually argue that Cody Zeller was a big part of why Kemba Walker took that next leap forward, because Cody Zeller is one of the best screen setters in the entire NBA. He really helped Kemba Walker get the necessary space that he needed to be able to get off his jump shot and to be able to get those little lanes that he needs as a smaller player and all of the space that he needs as a smaller player. So it's obviously Kemba as well. He really improved as a jump shooter. Has really taken that next step forward, in terms of his strength and in terms of being strong on the ball. I will say, though, that Dwight is not necessarily as interested at setting screens and doing the small things that you hope for on offense. You know, he's good at it when he wants to do it. He just doesn't always want to do it. And I'm going to be interested to see how that goes down, because I think if there is one coach that can communicate to him what he needs to do, it's probably Steve Clifford. Clifford and he have a good relationship going back to Clifford's time in Orlando and in Los Angeles, I believe. I believe he was there the one of the years that Dwight was there. The 1 year that Dwight was there, I guess. So I'm interested to see how this goes. I think it could actually end up working out okay, but I don't think that both Dwight and Cody Zeller can play on the floor at the same time. So I wonder if there's going to be kind of a, maybe Dwight doesn't play quite as much as what a lot of people think. Maybe it's like a 28 minutes for Zeller, 20 minutes for Dwight thing. And limiting Dwight's minutes, I think, could really help keep him energized, keep him useful on the defensive side of the floor, where he was still one of the better rim protectors in the NBA last year and one of the better glass cleaners in the NBA last year. It's just that because of his back, he can't really move anymore. But if there's one coach around the NBA that really knows how to, insulate bigger-bodied, slow-footed centers, Clifford does a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, I agree. It's really going to be a matter of whether Clifford can convince Dwight that his best basketball will be played on a shorter timetable.
Yeah.
Dwight did not like getting taken out of games in Atlanta, particularly in the playoffs. It became an issue. And he was just unplayable in the playoffs. He just, for what the Hawks needed, which was to go small, Dwight was just unplayable. It won't be the case in Charlotte, especially in the regular season. But can you convince Dwight that 25 to 28 minutes a game is where he should be? Who knows? Dwight has not taken well to the idea that he is not what he once was. And just never has. Like, ever since the back injury flamed out, he's always thought he could still get back there. Maybe Clifford gets through to him. I agree. I think if I were to lean anywhere, it would be the over, but I do think this number is just too right for where I would project if I were giving it a 4-win window. I think it's right in the middle of it. So I just take a step back, but I agree. I think what they can do with Dwight, Malik Monk can come in and give them the spacing that they've lacked.
Yep, especially off the bench.
He's supposed. I think he's back on the court already. If Monk can shoot and give them that punch that they need, I think honestly lineups with Monk and Kid Gilchrist could be real fun because they kind of complement what the other can't do. And if you could combine the best of those two players, yep, freaking superstar.
Yeah, like they can run out some really interesting lineups. Like they can throw out like
really
Michael Carter Williams and Malik Monk and like pair them with
a lot of versatile, lengthy guys.
Yeah, like they can pair them with Batum and Marvin Williams. They can, throw out Michael Kidd Gilchrist at the 4 with Batum and be able to stretch the floor still. Kaminsky can obviously help as well, being such a good floor spacer at the center position. So, I really like the versatility of lineups here. I like the talent level. I like the fact that Kemba has established himself as an all-star level point guard. I would lean over, I think. I think they're going to be a playoff team this year, but I don't necessarily think it's going to be like a surefire, unbelievable team either.
No, I agree. But yeah, I mean, what I'm thinking is what Mike Woodson dreamed of with those Hawks that could switch everything.
Yep.
Where everybody was between 6'6" and like 6'10", except for the point guard.
Well, except for the center, too. They can't really switch centers.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, Robbie, before we move on, let's go on ahead and pay some bills. Fantasy football fans, the wait is nearly over. Football is back, which means FanDuel is back. Fantasy football for everyday fans. There are new contests starting every week, which means there are no busted seasons. If a player gets hurt, you don't have to worry. You can just pick a new team the next week. There's something for everyone. Lots of contests to choose from, starting at just $1, going all the way up to whatever you want to play for. Just pick a contest, choose your team, and watch your score in real time. I play daily fantasy pretty regularly. During the dog days of summer, I do Major League Baseball. Every game becomes more exciting. We know how boring baseball can get. You pick the players you like for just that day, and you go from there. Over 2.5 million players have won a cash prize playing fantasy sports on FanDuel. Sign up today. Go to FanDuel.com. Click the Join Now button and use my code GAMETHEORY, GAMETHEORY. Try FanDuel for free with no deposit required. Visit FanDuel.com to claim your free contest and play for a share of $10,000. Just sign up using that promo code GameTheory. That's FanDuel.com. Promo code GameTheory. Void where prohibited. Robbie, let's go on ahead and move on. Let's talk about the Chicago Bulls. 21.5. It's not worth talking about last season because there are like five players from their roster last year on the team.
And the best one's probably getting bought out.
At some point, like maybe Dwayne Wade plays into the season.
That's the most interesting thing here.
Yeah.
That's where this number, if you think Wade gets bought out before the season, which I find unlikely, you probably take the under.
If you think Dwayne Wade is going to get bought out by December,
you might take the over.
You might.
Because if you are talking about the worst teams, he's the best player of anyone on like the Hawks, the Nets probably. Like,
is he still better than Miles Turner?
That's what I was literally thinking in my head. About equal. And plays maybe a more premier position in this current NBA. If you're going to kind of want to weigh it one way or the other, the wing ball handler guy, like Miles still needs somebody to get him the ball, and they got to figure out if they got a point guard that can do that in Indy. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Wade, if he's playing 25 to 30 minutes a game, will win them some games they shouldn't be winning because he's just going to keep playing his game. So I don't know. Like, this is a steer clear until we know Wade. Yeah. I think that's as much analysis I can really give it.
The other question here is, like, how much of a shit is Dwayne Wade going to give?
Also, I mean, that's the other thing is if the buyout doesn't come as like there's too many. Every variable with Wade feels weird, and I don't like it.
I think it's probably about right now. I kind of lean under, maybe.
I agree. If Wade, I mean,
like now that I look at this roster,
they're so bad.
Like Chris Dunn might be like their third or fourth best player, right? And they have no idea what they want to do with him based on what we saw in Summer League. Like they played him off the ball in Summer League.
Are you telling me the team that traded for Cameron Payne doesn't know what they want to do with a young point guard?
That's another good point. Cameron Payne. Oh boy. Oh.
They've got some play. When's Zach LaVine going to be ready to play?
If I was Zach,
I would take my time. Take your sweet time, baby.
I'd be taking
my time. Come back in like February.
I'd be taking my time. But that's not the way Zach operates. He's gonna want to get back as soon as possible.
And also, he's about to want to make some money too.
Yeah, like, are they seriously just gonna have to max Zach LaVine?
This is my favorite thing. They're gonna have to max Zach LaVine because you cannot justify trading Jimmy Butler and letting Zach LaVine walk next season. He is the only piece you got because you, for whatever reason, did a pick swap instead of just demanding the 7th pick.
Yeah, like, okay, so like you got Lauri Markkanen instead of a better center at 16. I'm a big Markkanen guy. I think he's going to be good for them this year. Again, will be in the running to be like their 3rd best player.
By the way, if you're looking for sneaky rookie of the year votes,
he seriously might score like 15 points a game just based on getting 10 shots a game.
My 2 favorite way down the board guys. I think Dennis Smith Jr. wins it. My 2 favorite way down the board guys were Markkanen because he's just going to get buckets and play a lot, and John Collins if the Hawks just say play him 25. Because John Collins will score. He's not going to play defense at all, but that doesn't matter in Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, no. Same with Markkanen. Neither of them are going to play defense, and they're just going to get buckets.
Yep.
So, yeah, no. I actually don't like that, or I don't mind that. That's not a bad idea. But yeah, they're probably going to have to max Zach LaVine.
That's what I guess.
Yeah, so like their starting lineup once Dwayne Wade eventually gets bought out, we're looking at Jaren Grant, Paul Zipser. Well, let's just throw LaVine in here for fun. Jaren Grant, Zach LaVine, Paul Zipser, Bobby Portis, and probably Robin Lopez.
I still believe in Bobby Portis.
So do I. I love Bobby Portis.
Woo pig. He's gonna be good. But yeah, no, it's not good. Anytime the Zipser enters the equation for starting.
Yeah.
Not ideal. Not
I'm
an
even
ideal
a big Paul
situation.
Zipser guy, but
You can like who isn't a big Paul Zipser guy?
Maybe
But he's not a starting player in the NBA.
Yeah.
Anywho.
I don't know, man. This is going to be an ugly team. Hopefully, Zach LaVine comes back and at least showcases some of the fun that was bringing his game around before he got injured. But, oh boy, I'm not excited about that one. Cleveland, 53.5 wins. Too low, too high, or just right?
I don't know what to... Ugh. I don't like this. I just want to say that.
Yeah.
I don't like the number. They won 51 last year.
Yep.
They lost Kyrie Irving.
Yep.
Theoretically. They add Isaiah Thomas for however long he can play. I think that's what spooks me.
Yeah, I agree.
When does Isaiah Thomas hit the court for the Cleveland Cavaliers? If it is somehow day 1, even week 2, week 3, you can talk me into an over. You can talk me into FU LeBron is here, and I want to thank Kyrie Irving for that. LeBron James is here to prove that you should not have left his side. And he's going to play with whoever's there. And he's going to try and dominate everybody for the 65 games he appears in.
Yeah, I mean, Isaiah Thomas just came out in an interview with
I'm fine
with Woj and said he's not damaged. He'll be back and he'll be the same player. Sure. I tend to agree. I think that, a lot of teams end up being overly conservative with injuries, which is kind of weird to say, I guess, because like a lot of the time you do hope that these guys are being taken care of. But at the same time, I think whenever you're talking about acquisitions of players, there are a lot of teams out there that are quite conservative. I hope that Isaiah is healthy. I hope he's fine. If you could guarantee me he plays 70 games this year, I would probably take the over. If you told me he plays Under 40. I would take the under. There's just too much uncertainty there, I think, right now.
Yeah.
One thing that is interesting about this, so they would have to win 3 more games than last year. Kevin Love has always played a lot better without Kyrie Irving than with him. Now, obviously, you're going to run into, Isaiah Thomas is stylistically, he pounds the ball maybe a little bit less than Kyrie, but, you're still going to run into that kind of similar thing where Kevin Love probably goes back into being the third option offensively, where he has to space the floor a little bit more often instead of getting on the offensive glass and, being able to kind of assert his will there. But I don't know. I'm interested in the Kevin Love potential resurgence here because I think it could happen.
I'm here for it, especially if Thomas is out for a little bit. Bron's going to do everything to get Kevin Love fed, and we've seen it in the past. We've seen Bron do that.
Yeah.
We've seen when people have doubted Love that LeBron's done his part to make sure that the big man gets fed. And I'd like to see it. I'd like to see him get back to where he was. I think the biggest thing for him is if, I'd like to see them try and get him more touches kind of in and out. I think he was part of what made him so good in Minnesota was he was just a monster on the offensive glass. And I think it's been really hard for him to do that in the spacing in Cleveland. Maybe Kyrie being gone, especially if Isaiah Thomas, when he's not on the floor, I think it'd be a great opportunity to let Kevin Love. You don't need the driving lanes because you don't have a point guard that is going to pound the ball and go straight ahead. I think when you have Thomas, you kind of got to do that again. But early on, that's kind of the way I would try to get Kevin more involved. Let him be down there, let him eat those offensive rebounds because he was, one of the 3 best in the league on the offensive glass, maybe the best in the league when he was in Minnesota.
It was decreasing a little bit.
It was, and part of it was the way he kind of changed his body.
Right.
We all remember Pudgy K-Love.
Yeah.
And we all miss Pudgy K-Love.
We do.
I'm not as big of a fan of GQ K-Love.
No, I don't want jacked Kevin Love.
No, I don't want slim and I want him to look like maybe he could play a little tight end.
Yeah, I don't want this GQ model Kevin Love. I want the Kevin Love that looks in that picture that's circulating with Isaiah Thomas, where he's literally 2 of Isaiah Thomas.
I love it. I love everything about that picture.
Yeah,
so I'm with you. But
the one thing I will say about Kevin Love too is that the thing I think that's been most disappointing to me about his Cleveland tenure is that he was really coming along as a passer in Minnesota in the half court. Like everyone always knows that he has those crazy outlet passes and they're very exciting. And, it's great to see him do that. But as a passer, he was really, really unbelievable in that last year in the half court in Minnesota. And I would like to see them involve him a little bit more in the high post and kind of let him create plays for these shooters that surround him in Cleveland with his passing.
Yeah. And again, maybe that's what you can do in the interim until Thomas gets back. And I think this will be one of the first time. I mean, I don't want to say that he's been coasting, but we're going to see kind of how much magic T. Lue has as an X's and O's guy. Because if you're down to Love and LeBron, you're gonna kind of have to scheme it up a little bit more than when you could just kind of say, okay, when in doubt, we can always let Kyrie do his thing and LeBron does his thing. You don't want to make LeBron do his thing in November.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see how that one goes. I'm just going to leave it at that. I would say for Cleveland, that number is just too early to tell. I would say that I would stay away for now.
Yeah, let's walk away until we know more about everything going on with health.
And with this trade. The Detroit Pistons are at 38.5. Last year, the Detroit Pistons went 37-45, so they're basically saying same team as last year. That seems about right to me. They're replacing Kentavious Caldwell-Pope with Avery Bradley. I would say that's a slight upgrade, personally. They're probably hoping that Andre Drummond takes a small step forward after not a great year last year, in my opinion, outside of what he was able to do on the glass. Did not take the next step that I think a lot of people were hoping for and anticipating. Not real enthused about this team, though. I'm not going to lie to you.
I tell you what, if there's a team in the NBA that you could tell me didn't even play, like, I would never notice if the Pistons did not play a game this year.
Yeah, I don't know if I would either.
I mean, like, they are just a basketball team that goes out and they do their thing. They have nothing that wants to draw me in as an outsider. I'm not trying to knock the Pistons franchise. Pistons fans, don't yell at me. I'm just saying, as an outsider, what about this team makes me go, I want to tune in? There are a lot of teams like that. The Hawks are like that.
Like,
they could
I
be,
will
like,
even
spectacularly
watch the
bad.
Indiana Pacers this year because I want to see Miles Turner.
I want to see if he feasts. And that's the thing, is I think that's where we were with the Pistons when Andre Drummond was an intriguing young prospect. We wanted to see if he would take that step forward. And now, since he hasn't, we are going to need receipts before we go back. You know?
Yeah.
You get that 2-year window where we're like, can he do it? And then when you don't, you got to do it before we come back to you. That's just the way the NBA works, the way pro sports works. You get a little window to show that potential, then you get a window to meet that potential and those kind of hopes and aspirations. And if you don't, we're going to put you in the box for a while, and then we'll bring you back out if you do better. That's me with the Pistons, with Reggie Jackson, with Andre Drummond, with all of them. I like the Avery Bradley addition. Like you said, I think it is an upgrade over KCP, who I was never super high on. He will at least be more
I didn't really
consistent.
get the excitement with him that some people had.
Yeah. And he'll be at least more consistent as a shooter than KCP, who fell off the face of the earth last year. It wouldn't surprise me if Detroit goes over and wins 40 because the East sucks. And like I said, I think if you're looking for the teams that take advantage of the bad bottom, it's the teams in the middle. It's not the teams at the bottom taking advantage of the other teams at the bottom. I think they're all pretty close to each other down there. It's the Charlottes, the Pistons, the Heat.
I'm so much less excited about Detroit than I am Charlotte. Even that's I think the best statement I can make on the Detroit Pistons. I am much more excited about the Charlotte Hornets than the Detroit Pistons. I think that says a lot.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, that's probably enough Pistons talk.
I'm good without talking about this.
Would
38 and a half.
If you made me lean, I'd probably say over. But again, like the thing is, the one thing you feel safe about with Detroit is they're probably at this point not going to sell, because Stan is kind of making his last push.
Yep.
So I feel confident that they're not going to sell. You know, last year you were kind of worried, like there are all the rumors about Reggie and Andre, and I don't think they'll do that, mainly because I don't think Stan wants to, and I don't think he feels like he has enough job security to. I think he missed his window to rebuild after he just gave everybody money for the same damn team. He's just got to ride this out, and if he's gone soon, he's gone soon. That's not the case with a team like the Pelicans. I know we're not in the West, but that's a team that could say, hey, maybe we should get something for Boogie at the trade deadline if we're bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's one that you run away from. But in the same window of that 38.5, 39.5 is where New Orleans is. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I would actually probably lean under on Detroit. I'm just not excited about them. I think that there's potential for that thing to really fall apart. But, you know, maybe Avery Bradley kind of gives them a little bit of a push defensively on the perimeter and helps to insulate Andre Drummond a little bit more. We'll see, though. I don't really want to talk about the Pistons anymore. Yeah. It's just making me sad and not excited about basketball season. The Indiana
football,
Pacers,
right?
Yeah, football. The Indiana Pacers, 31.5. Too low, too high, or just right?
Dog, I don't know. It might be too high.
So here's
somebody in the
on
East has to win 30 games.
Yeah. So I have a take on this. So
please,
if I was going to bet on anything with the Indiana Pacers, I would, I think this number in a vacuum, I kind of lean too high on, but I don't have a great feel and I wouldn't put money on that number. What I would consider putting money on is I do think there's a chance this just kind of goes right. They're at plus 375 to make the playoffs right now. Like, if you told me that there are 4 different timelines, like, I think the Pacers probably make the playoffs in one of those 4 timelines.
Yeah, everything has to go right. Miles Turner has to be who everybody thinks he can be, which I'm still not quite sold he can do with this team around him. This is always my fear with big men, and it honestly is kind of what happened to Andre Drummond. Is you got to have them with the right guy that gets them the ball in their spot.
You know, weirdly, I think that they kind of...
And Miles Turner has more ability to get versatility than Drummond, especially offensively.
Yeah. Like, weirdly, I think that in their decision to just kind of stride toward the middle instead of all-out tanking, they did take care of Miles Turner a little bit. Like, they got him Darren Collison, they got him Corey Joseph. Like, both of those guys are smart veteran point guards. Like, I at least think that there is a world where, because those two are around, because Bojan Bogdanovic can score and can create offense, and if they decide not to sell Thaddeus Young, maybe that'll help. Like, I think that, you know, Turner
I forgot they had Thaddeus Young.
To be an
I love Thaddeus Young. I just want to say that.
Yeah, Thaddeus Young.
Sorry, I forgot they had him. Forgot they had Thaddeus Young.
And Thaddeus. They have Victor Oladipo, too. Like, if Victor Oladipo takes the step that Oklahoma City decided to pay for, you know, maybe.
They also have my baby boy Sabonis, who I don't think is going to do things yet, but I just love him.
Yeah, I like to watch him. He's a good passer. He's fun.
Great.
He could potentially shoot
really
it.
good footwork. Really good footwork in the post. He doesn't have the best touch to finish all the times that he gets himself in good positions, but he's got magical footwork.
He does have great footwork.
That's about all I got. I like big guys that have little dancer's feet. I'm a sucker for Sabonis.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm staying away from this number.
Agree.
I might bet on them to make the playoffs, though, plus 375. And just
put a shekel down. Yeah. Put a few shekels on the 375. I don't hate it.
So Miami,
somebody's got to make the playoffs in the East.
Yeah,
that shouldn't.
Miami is at 43.5 wins. That's 3 more wins to go over than what they had last year. They had that crazy fucking insane finish to end the year. Their expected win-loss last year was 44 wins. So basically saying that, you know, same team as last year. I'm actually thinking over 43.5. I think this number is a little bit low. What do you think?
I agree with you. I am going to give a rare over near lock.
Robby does not like his overs.
Hate him. Hate him.
Overs.
Hate optimism and scoring. Anyway, yeah, no, I mean, look, again, this is where I keep going is I keep leaning over on these other teams. You know, Charlotte, Detroit, I was leaning over because what are the teams that can take advantage of how bad the East is? Miami, I think, is a team legitimately built to be able to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
I think they have the pieces that can really attack those bad teams and just win those games. When you play, you know, Indiana, they have the kind of guy that can give Turner problems. You know, if you play Indiana, Whiteside can mess with him.
The Whiteside kind of takes it to, like, all of the bad teams.
Right. You know, Brooklyn has nobody that can handle him inside. He's going to have 20 and 20 that game.
Yeah.
Just going to do it. Atlanta doesn't have anybody that can match up. I mean, you look at they're just kind of a matchup nightmare with what they can do with Dragic and Whiteside that I think they can do. And let's all be believers in Dion Waiters for once.
And that's
let's
where I'm
buy
going
in.
Next. Yeah, like Dion was really good last year. I think that it's just flat out worth saying Dion Waiters was good last year. He only played 46 games though, so if you get a full season of Dion Waiters, if you think Justice Winslow can be anything, I do think Justice Winslow can be pretty good. What we saw of him in those 18 games last year was pretty good. I kept him off of my top 25 players 23 and under because I really am worried about the efficiency in the shooting. But I think Justice Winslow can be an NBA starter or so, to be sure. maybe that comes this year, maybe it doesn't. We'll see. But he only played 18 games last year. If he plays 75 games this year, that'll be a boost. Josh Richardson only played 53 games last year. That could be a boost. They also bring in Kelly Olynyk. That could be a boost. There's actually quite a bit of reason for optimism here in what we saw of them last year. So they had, 3 of their better players miss quite a bit of time, and they still had a Pythagorean win differential of 44 wins. So
wouldn't be surprised if they're a 47-win team.
Yeah, I actually do think that this team wins 47-48. I think that they really capped what their ceiling is this offseason, so I wasn't a huge fan of it. But that offseason also allowed them to get into a place where their floor, I think, is pretty high. Like, I think they're going to be a pretty good team this year.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know that we really need to talk about them more. We're both all in. We like the over.
Let's keep cruising. Bucks.
The Milwaukee Bucks, 47.5 wins. They won 42 last year. That seems somewhat high to me.
Feels high. I know they're. Oh man,
that's a tricky number.
I know Jabari's back.
Is he?
Well, I just don't know what he is now.
I think he's going to be like more around the All-Star break, isn't he?
Is he? Is it that late? It could be that late. I thought he was coming back way more like December, but you could be right.
So here's the good news. Last year they only had Chris Middleton for like 30 games. They'll have him for a full year this year. Last year, though, they had Jabari Parker for 50 games. They probably only have him for more like 30 games this year. So it's kind of a give and take. Chris Middleton's obviously better than Jabari. I don't think I'm breaking news there. I'm also a huge Jabari fan, so when he gets back, I think they could really go on a run if he's healthy and able to do the things that I think he's capable of. They also didn't really add much this offseason.
No.
If you were making me predict a team that long-term can make a run in the Eastern Conference, I would probably say Milwaukee.
Sure.
I think 47.5, I think I would lean that number is just slightly high right now.
I would agree. I mean, this is one where not going to be like lock up and under, but this is a 46-win team to me. Mm-hmm. Which means they could win 50, could win 44, could win 48. I mean, they could be kind of all over. I mean, but I think it takes kind of a perfect storm for them to get to that 50 number, and I love Giannis, but I don't think he takes another huge leap forward. Because the only huge leap Giannis really has left to take is to become a very solid three-point shooter, and I don't think he's going to do that in the summer.
Well, the only leap he can make is just becoming an alien.
Yeah, which the leap he has to make is to become Kevin Durant. And just all of a sudden he's like a 38% three-point shooter, and we go, what the hell do we do with him? He's not there yet. He's still 27% three-point. Maybe he's 30%. Maybe he makes a minor improvement, but there's not another leap coming that makes him a 30-point-a-game guy or 28. He's not going to be the MVP candidate people think he could be this year. Give him a couple more years. It's okay.
Good Lord. If he is, though, oh my God.
I'm terrified. Oh, if he is, then they win 52 games, and we're all wrong, and the East is doomed once LeBron leaves for L.A. I don't know. I think I agree with you on the under. I think this is a team that they will be better than last year, but not markedly so in the sense that they're going to be a six win differential better.
Yeah, I think it's a lot. Just given the fact that they didn't really do anything to make like a market jump other than maybe get healthy. We'll see. I would stay away, though, for what it's worth. I'm not betting on this.
I'm always a let's see when it comes to health, which we'll get to here in just a moment.
Oh, boy.
With another team.
The New York Knickerbockers. 30.5. Last year, the stalwart franchise out of New York won 31 games. What does it say about this organization that they have Kristaps Porzingis hopefully entering a massive, star-making third year, and they're projected to win half a game less than they won last year?
Well, Melo is going to be somewhere.
By the end of the year, I would imagine it's not the New York Knicks.
I would assume it's Houston.
But the problem with Melo is...
But how do you get rid of him if Like, Houston doesn't have the money matching pieces that they'll take. It's a whole ordeal. So what do you do with... My question is, how much does Melo play if he stays in New York?
I think how much plays, because
I would assume.
Here's the
but
issue.
It also could be weird.
He can't, unless they want to pay him, an exorbitant amount of money to just, buy him out. They would legit have to pay him probably $40 million. Because his salary, I think he has, $52 million or something left on his number. They'd have to pay him, I think, $40 to $45 million to get him to be yeah, I'll just go to Houston. It's fine.
Yeah.
And
whatever. Also, Dolan has already... I mean, that's... The reason Phil got fired wasn't trying to trade Melo and bashing Melo and threatening to trade Porzingis because he wanted to send a message to your best player that you shouldn't skip exit interviews. It was that he wanted to buy out Melo. And that's why Dolan fired him. So they're not going to buy him out.
Yeah, let's also be real clear on this. It would be the funniest fucking thing in the world if they bought out Melo at $45 million, because that would mean they'd be paying a buyout to Phil Jackson for $30 million for about 3 months of work after they decided to extend his contract and then fire him 3 months later.
Yeah.
And then they would also be paying $45 million to Melo. There's just no way that happens. Jim Dolan's dumb, but he's not that dumb. He's not going to burn $70 million.
Correct.
So I think Melo is kind of stuck there unless the Rockets somehow find a deal to make it work.
Yeah, they got to find that third team that'll take Ryan Anderson's god-awful contract.
Yeah, that's not a great deal. But given that, I think I would lean over. I'm not about to bet on optimism with the New York Knicks.
They brought Ron Baker back. They're ready.
There is just no circumstance where I would even consider betting on and putting my money on the New York Knicks in a positive manner.
0% chance.
But I kind of lean toward over 30.5.
I don't hate it. I'm not against it. You'll never catch me like you said, you'll never catch me putting money on Knicks. I hope Frank's good. I hope Kristaps takes the leap. Tim Hardaway Jr. gives them spacing. I don't know exactly what else he'll give them. He could be a detriment and start slamming the ball into the ground and trying to go ISO. For however long they have Melo, they still have a starting caliber, very solid player in the NBA. For another one. That gives them two. And a half of a third when you have Tim Hardaway Jr., because half the time he will be and half the time he'll be almost unplayable.
Robbie, can we talk about their other big acquisition, though?
Other than re-signing Ron Baker?
Yeah.
And giving him a no-trade clause?
Even a bigger... That's
Bees? Super cool Bees?
Super cool Bees. Michael Beasley is going to be in Madison Square Garden.
Just giving people buckets.
He is going
to... My favorite lineup they could possibly put on the basketball court involves Melo, Kristaps, Tim Hardaway, and Michael Beasley with, I don't know, Frank. I don't care. I don't care who's running the point. That is just certified bucket getters trying to figure out how to work with one basketball. And I want that to be the starting lineup. I don't care how you got to make it work. Do it. It'd be so much fun. I don't know how many passes would actually get made.
3.
All game.
Yeah.
Not even per possession. I would love it. That's dream lineup right there. Then here's the thing. I think the Knicks could be kind of fun. Again, in the way that they're going to be bad.
Fun, shitty team to watch.
But yeah, I'm going to enjoy watching those Porzingis games. I'm going to enjoy getting the league pass alert that Michael Beasley has 8 in his first 5 minutes in the game, and we need to be ready for 40 points from Bees in the Garden because he's going to try it.
If Michael Beasley drops 40 in the Garden, there would never be a greater night in NBA history.
I also want a New York Knicks blue jersey that has bucket getter on the back and Beasley's number.
I want a Ron Baker jersey.
Get them while they're hot.
He's going to be there. He's going to be around.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, so I think we're both oddly bullish on the Knicks, with the caveat that you should never put money on the Knicks.
No, do not be optimistic on the New York Knicks. Let's move on to the Orlando Magic. 33.5 is their number.
I'm sorry. Did I say the Pistons were the one team in the league that you could tell me they weren't playing any games I wouldn't notice? There are two.
You know what? No, I will fight you on that, because Terrence Ross and Aaron Gordon are going to do cool-ass shit.
Okay, all right. Fair enough. However,
like Wes Iwundu can jump. Jonathan Simmons is going to do something real dumb. Like,
okay, you know what? They will be fun as hell in layup lines. I'll give you that. I'll give you this is layup line all-stars.
Yeah.
Okay? However,
they're going to bring over Fran Vasquez mid-year.
I'm still really sad that Mario Hezonja sucks.
Oh, yeah, me too.
It just makes me feel bad, because I wanted him to come over and be just dominant and just cook people and dunk on people, but he's terrible. Yeah.
I thought he was like white JR, or like Euro JR.
Euro JR, and he just didn't happen. My biggest thing with Orlando is they might have one of the worst roster. They have decent players, but they have one of the worst roster constructions in the NBA. If you're just looking at how do you make all these guys play.
So,
it's
in some ways, I think it got better, and then in other ways, I think it got worse this offseason. Like,
you keep signing random, weird combo 3-4 guys.
So, like, basically the way I judge this is, do they have a small enough glut in the front court to play Aaron Gordon at the 4? Yes, they do. They have that now. Like, they're going to be able to play Gordon at the 4 now. Like, all they have really is Vucevic and Biyombo. They also have Maurice Spates, which was the weirdest signing of the offseason, maybe. But, like, they went out. They got wings. They got Jonathan Simmons. They just acquired Terrence Ross at the trade deadline last year. Wes Iwundu is a wing that's useful. They went out and got Aaron Aflalo. Like, I don't think there's any way that Aaron Gordon is going to play the 3 this year. So that's good.
That's good.
They might just, shift that role to Jonathan Isaac, though, and make him play the 3.
Poor Jonathan. When they drafted him, I was like, you just did it again. Yeah. You get I don't know what their strategy is. I never know what their strategy is as far as getting play. And it's not even.
The problem is that they just changed front offices.
I agree.
And John Hammond has a great track record with guys like Jonathan Isaac, right? So it makes sense that they would take Isaac, not in the manner that this roster is constructed, but hey, Aaron Gordon, Jonathan Isaac front courts could be super fun. They could be great.
Sure.
They're never going to do it, but it could be so fun.
No, just embrace the small.
Yeah, 33.5.
Glue Vucci to the. It feels high just because I don't trust Orlando.
But Frank Vogel is going to coach his ass off. He's going to try and get this thing to work.
Are they 5 games better than last year?
I mean, I thought that last year they'd be 5 games better than last year, And by the way, their expected win-loss based on their, Pythagorean win-loss and based on their offensive and defensive rating, they were a 24-win team.
Jesus.
So,
I'm gonna say under, not a lock, but just don't trust it.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this number I think is about right for me, which is weird.
Probably. I think 31.5 would feel right for me. I think it's a little high.
Yeah. So Philadelphia is at 42.5. That is a 15-win improvement on last year.
Nope.
I think the number is about right. I am willing to hear why you think it's high.
It's too high. You have to think a lot of things happen, and this is part of my problem.
So here, I will give you the 2 things. There are the 3 things that are going to happen.
Talk to me.
So Markelle Fultz is going to play.
Markelle Fultz is going to play, and
Ben Simmons is going to play.
All year.
Yes. I think that, I don't know that we have a reason to think that, Ben Simmons is injury prone.
Sure.
I think that it was probably just a fluke thing last year. We don't have a reason to think Markelle Fultz is injury prone, although there sneaky concerns out there from some people. I think, maybe betting on Joel Embiid playing more than 30 games is a bad idea. But I think if he plays 50 games, which is a conservative estimate this year, I think that they win pretty damn close to that number with what they add. Plus they get JJ Redick. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm okay with this. I'm actually kind of okay with this number.
I think it's high.
I'm not betting on it. Like, I'm staying away because I think the number is about right. But
I think this is last year's Timberwolves. I think this is
they're adding way more talent, though.
I'm just saying, like, I think you're asking for a very large jump, and I know they add more talent, but I think you're asking for a 15-win jump from a team that won. I think you got to expect close to 100, at least 130 combined games from Simmons and Embiid. 125 combined games from those two.
I would think that goes over.
I don't know about that. Maybe. I think
I would if I was betting on over 125 and you gave me even odds, I would bet on that and feel good about it.
Yeah. I think Markelle Fultz, young point guards tend to have a little bit of struggle in the league. I think he can be really good. I think he can be really good. It's the deepest position in the league. Night in, night out, you go up against really good guys. I think there's a learning curve there.
Yeah, I agree.
And then finally, someone other than JJ Redick's got to shoot the ball well. And I don't know if I trust the rest of that squad. I know, is it Hollis? Is it Rocco taking the leap to be a more than 33% shooter? Like,
I think you're trusting Big Bob Covington to make that leap.
I think my thing, and this is more of a me thing, is I gotta see it first with a team like this.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've seen too many times, and I point to Minnesota last year, where I think people get 1 year ahead of themselves. I think it takes maybe 1 year playing together before it wouldn't surprise me if they won 39 and got to the playoffs. I just think 43 wins is a lot to ask of this team.
Yeah.
And I feel pretty confident in saying the under. I would love if they would surprise me. I would absolutely love it because I think this could be a great story in the league and great for the league to have that next young team coming up when we know, okay, what's going to happen after the LeBron Cavs break up? Who's going to be next for the Warriors? Because we got 4 more years of that. Like, I think it'd be great I would love it if Milwaukee and Philly were 2 of the teams to take that step forward because they have exciting young players.
And Boston's going to, too.
I've got to see it on the court first.
So here's going to be my argument against Minnesota. Everyone was really excited about Minnesota based on internal improvement, right? Like, they didn't really add anyone last year. Like, they added Cole Aldrich and, like, Brandon Rush, right? Like, this Sixers team is adding, like, 3 starters. You know what I mean? Like, they're adding 3 legitimately awesome pieces to their starting lineup. And, like, maybe you don't believe that Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz are going to be, like, NBA starters immediately. I would understand that then. I understand your position on that. But
I think that's mostly it for me. It's like I just want to. I'm a little wary of projecting rookies coming in and having that kind of impact on winning. Like, is my main thing. I think they're going to be better. I think that they're going to make the team better. Man, 15 wins is a lot of wins.
It's a lot. I think that's true. I'm staying away. Like I said, like I'm not betting on this at all. I think that's a dangerous number.
Sure.
But, they bring in JJ, they bring in Amir Johnson. Jahlil Okafor rolls out of bed with 20 and 10. Like, Justin Anderson, maybe they can make something out of him. I'm skeptical on that, but, I would like it because I really like Justin Anderson's game and he's super fun and he's athletic. Maybe they'll get more games out of Jared Bayless as well, who was hurt for a majority of last year. I don't know. Like, I just see that they're actually adding talent.
That's
and
fair.
Whereas a lot of these teams that are like the next team, they're always like, oh yeah, they're just going to make that leap. Like,
yeah, one thing I wish people would, and I mean, you see this more than anybody doing prospect stuff, is people have got to understand that development is not linear. Like, it just doesn't. No. If someone made X jump from year 1 to year 2, that doesn't mean it's going to be equal jump year 2 to year 3. Sometimes there's a step back. Sometimes there's a minor step forward. Sometimes it's the same, and it takes year 4 until they make the next. Like, it's not linear. And I think that's where people get in big trouble with projecting those teams. So I agree with you that I think they make upgrades. I just don't know if I quite buy into how great those upgrades are going to be in their first year of really playing and really playing together. Again, I hope they prove me wrong, but I think this is a 39-win team. I feel pretty confident.
Yep. Let's move on.
Please.
The 2 teams remaining here are your top 4 teams in the conference, I think. Let's start with Toronto. 48.5 is their over-under. They won 51 last year. They do lose Corey Joseph and Patrick Patterson. They're going to get a full year of Serge Ibaka, though. I mean, they also lose DeMarre Carroll. That's not really necessarily super important, though, given what we saw of him last year.
Feels right.
This feels right, because I don't like betting against. Over. Yeah. Honestly, part of me wants to lean under here, but I don't really... Like, I think this is just right. Like, I think this is the right number.
I think they slide back a couple games.
Yeah.
I think the one thing you worry about is, can DeMar DeRozan keep shooting so well from the mid-range?
I think he will.
I think he will. That's the thing. It's like, your only fear is that, like, it catches up to them that they play what would be generally called a relatively inefficient type of basketball.
Does it frustrate you like it frustrates me that people say he can't pass?
He's a good player. I think it's more, is he willing to pass as much as he should? But he can pass. I think that's always. I think there's always that conflation of, like, DeMar DeRozan of guys. They say guys can't pass. Well, maybe, look, some guys just have that mindset where they're going to go score, and so no, they're not pass first. And sometimes they should pass more, and sometimes they miss passes, like miss a pretty clear passing opportunity that would lead to an easier bucket than the 16-foot turnaround, and that's what he does. But he can absolutely pass the ball, and like
but he's averaged 3.9 assists per game over the last 4 years, and he's had like a 20% assist rate over the last 4 years.
I just like to see them try to move the ball a little more. I think it would be better if they encouraged a little more ball movement, a little quicker ball movement in the half court. I think part of my issue with what they do is I don't put a whole lot into. I don't put as much into pace, getting up and down, and getting a ton of possessions as I do. And this comes from watching Bud's offenses a lot, as I do to like pace as far as like moving the ball around in the half court. I think that's more important. I think what Toronto has is they tend to get a little stagnant in the half court.
Agreed.
The ball's not moving. The ball's sticking. It makes things easier for a defense. You don't have to run a team up and down. That can be dangerous to you as well. That can become inefficient. But you need to move a team around the half court where they're not just able to stand and look at you and go, this is what you're doing. If you're moving the ball around, they're having to make communications and moves and switches around the off-ball screens. Like, that's where you get confusion. I think the one thing Toronto does that they run into problems, and it's especially a problem in the playoffs. Everybody says everything slows down in the playoffs. Things slow down in the playoffs, but if you slow it down to where you're not moving the ball in the half court, like, yeah, possessions become more important, but teams are still moving the ball around. You're trying to create things in the half court. They just don't create things in the half court enough. They don't create enough. They don't move it around. They're not getting the really good looks. So all of a sudden, those inefficiencies become magnified when you're into more critical possessions on a possession-to-possession basis in a game. And that's what their problem, in my estimation, has been the playoffs, along with just some bad play from their stars, mainly Kyle Lowry. Yeah. But I think beyond that, everything gets clogged up, and Lowry can't do as much.
Yep.
So that's my one bit of actual basketball analysis you'll get from me on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, what I will say from their over-under win perspective is that, they won 51 games last year, and they did that with Kyle Lowry missing 22 games. So that helps.
Right.
When Kyle was rolling and when this team was rolling early in the year, like, their offensive pace was like comical. It was hysterically good. They were at one point something like they had like 25 wins and like 9 losses or something like that. Like they were really rolling early in the year, and then kind of took a step back as you expect, and then Kyle got hurt near the end of the year, and I think that really slowed them down. I'm staying away from this number. I think 48.5 is a little bit, just kind of right on the money. I do, however, like this next number. The Washington Wizards over-under is at 47.5. 47.5. Where are you at on the Washington Wizards before I say what I like?
I like them. I think this is a little low.
I agree.
I think it's a little low. I think, this is just a really good basketball team that didn't lose much this offseason. John Wall has become a monster. And Bradley Beal finally, after years of really annoying, inconsistent play.
Yep.
Just obnoxiously so because you could see the talent.
Yep.
But became the dude everybody kept telling me he would, and I love watching it. Those two together are great. Gortat is still really solid. Keith can play ball as long as he doesn't let head games get to the best of him.
Yep.
I like this team. I wasn't crazy about the Otto Porter signing, but they had to do it.
Yep. Agreed.
I think the problem Washington has is they have
the highest paid player on the Washington Wizards, Otto Porter.
Legend. Until John signs that extension for next year, or so that kicks in next year. Here's the thing: is they have capped themselves as to what they can be, but what they can be is still really good and really competitive. And if you're the Wizards and you're looking towards the future, if the Cavs kind of fall apart, you can compete with the Celtics. You have a chance at making the finals. You have to get great play from your guys, but you have that core that that can compete. I like this team. I think this is a 50-win ball club.
Yeah, I think they're going to win 50 games too. Just continuity is a big thing in the NBA, and Otto Porter taking that leap and being a legit third guy.
If he can get a little more consistent from the 3-point line, and he had a little fall off towards the end of the year.
Yep.
I don't know if it was fatigue or a little injury or some kind of knack or something. If he can shoot more, I don't even think he has to shoot as well as he did early in the year when he was just couldn't miss from the corners.
Yeah.
If he can just be a 38% dude consistently, I talk about Bradley Beal not being consistent. If Otto Porter can find that consistently, whew.
Yeah,
that seems a problem.
Otto Porter shot 43% from 3 last year. Like, a lot of that, though, I agree with you, was just early in the year. Like, I think that, midway through the year, he was shooting, 49%.
He was unstoppable. He was Kyle Korver.
Yeah.
For, 3 months, which he's not.
Yeah. But I agree with you. I think if he's a 40% shooter from 3, then, it's all over. Because he's such a good cutter off the ball, too. So you have to respect that weapon. He's a really good player. I'm a really big fan. In terms of what they did on their bench, they added Jody Meeks, they added Tim Frazier as well. I liked both of those moves. Jan Nahimi is going to play a little bit more, so that's nice too. Last year didn't really come around until I want to say late in the year, something like maybe right around the All-Star break or so was when he got healthy. So I really do like this team. I think they're going to win 50 games. I think they're a sneaky, decent chance to be the 1 seed in the East. I will say that too,
buddy. Here's the thing: if they can avoid a semifinal series with the Celtics or Cavs, if they can get that 1 seed, I don't hate them as a finals team. I don't.
Yeah,
because I think because what we know about Cavs Celtics series, they beat each other up some, and I think it's part of what happened to the Celtics last year. I think all 3 of those teams, whenever they play each other, they're going to take a lot out of the other one. So if you play Washington, if you're those Boston Washington, that series was brutal, and the Boston Cavs series this year would be brutal. I think if you can avoid that, if you're Washington, if you can get one of those in the conference finals after they play each other, if you're talking to me about a sneaky conference pick in the East, I think Washington is probably good value on the board.
Yeah, so like, let me kind of expound upon why I think they're a sneaky number 1 seed. Like, we have no idea what the Cavs are going to look like right now, right? Like, just because we don't know what this Isaiah Thomas deal is. Like I said earlier in the podcast, I think it's going to take Boston some time to really get going. It wouldn't surprise me if they started out of the gate slow, especially defensively. If Washington, having the continuity that they have, just gets going out of the gate, they could build up a bit of a lead and get to the point where it's a little bit tough to get them slowed down. And
the 2015 Hawks approach.
Yes. So I'm not saying like I am betting on, like, I'm not saying that they're my prediction to be the 1 seed, but I'm saying if you gave me 6-1 odds, you gave me maybe even 5-1 odds, I might do that. I might bet on the Wizards to be the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it one bit.
All right.
Yeah.
We're done with over-unders in the Eastern Conference, Robbie.
Marathon, baby.
This went way longer than what I was hoping. I told you in and out in an hour.
Well, that's to be expected with us.
That failed. Robbie, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people where they can find your excitement about punting online. Tell the people where they can find all of the great under advice that you're going to give them during college football season.
Yeah. Uproxx Sports. Dime Mag for NBA season. You can find some of my picks for over-unders if you need more over there. Twitter at @rkalland, KALLAND. I'll be tweeting about punts. It'll be fun. Podcast news coming in the near future, both college football and basketball related. So if you are so inclined, stay tuned there. But yeah, otherwise I'll catch everybody over on Twitter. Let's root for some unders, low scoring games. It's what the people crave.
Can we talk real quick about that sexy ass punt from South Florida on Saturday?
Oh my God. Oh, I was waiting for it. I was waiting for you to bring it up. That thing was beautiful. It was one of those rare ones where it wasn't like he just kicked it out of bounds. That thing fucking sat on a dime inside the 1 and rolled just gently over the sideline.
Over the sideline.
It was sensual, and the best part was it came after some awful punting in that game from them. They nuked one through the end zone once. They had like an 18-yard punt earlier, and then all of a sudden he dials up the 60-degree and just sits one.
They were on like the 42 or something too. Like it was tight punt.
It was what a Kirk Ferentz wet dream is made of.
And you know what? It was like right after they'd taken a false start too, I think. So like they moved the 5 yards back to get it. It was perfect.
Exactly what you needed.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Robbie, thanks for coming on. This has been the Game Theory Podcast. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. We're up on SoundCloud, Google Play, Android, every other podcasting app. I believe we're up on. If we're not there, please let me know, and I will make sure and get my people on it. Keep it locked here. We'll do Western Conference over-unders on Friday. Guests to be determined. We will find out. I'm not going to make Robbie go through another 90 minutes of this. Hopefully we can do it in a little bit of a shorter time frame next time. But keep it locked here. Keep it locked on my social media stuff. We're getting going on the athletic stuff. We're starting to do some preview stuff, on the back end. So sooner rather than later, we will be up and running. I would appreciate some subscriptions to The Athletic. That would be great. But until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.